It is the time of year when the air gets cool and it's a bit more chilly than usual. We may not have winter in Jamaica, but we sure do feel the Christmas breeze. Between the pages today, the importance of staying warm to prevent a cold or flu amidst COVID-19. This is Jamaica Magazine and I am Adrian Atkinson. Stay with us. This is the show with the information to improve your life. It begins right now.
Agriculture is critical to Jamaica's future. And while we battle COVID-19, the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries continues to help our farmers and fisherfolk recover. We will focus on ensuring that Jamaica is food secure, expanding into new export markets, and building sustainable industries. We are building forward together.
Good day, I'm Lorraine Mendez, and this is your JIS News for Tuesday, December 8. Persons presumed to be dog owners will face criminal charges if their animals attack an individual in a public space, whether or not there is formal proof of ownership. The provision for presumptions and defenses clause was among amendments approved by the Senate on Friday in the Dogs Liability for Attacks Act 2020. Leader of Government Business, Senator Kamina Johnson-Smith, pointed out that the scheme of the act was set up to ensure informalities were taken into consideration.
We need to ensure that responsibility is therefore still applicable more widely, so that the victim, which is who this act is intended to protect, that the victims are not only protected, but they are given recourse, and that persons are held accountable and not able to simply slip out of the clutches of the law by saying, that they never pay no money for the dog, or there's nothing to prove that it's their dog.
Senator Johnson-Smith said presumptions were needed in law to allow and guide a court to make sensible and clear deductions in respect of who is responsible for a dog which committed an attack. The bill provides for criminal and civil liability for an owner of a dog that attacks, injures, and/or causes the death of a person. It's aimed at encouraging dog owners to exercise appropriate care in managing and controlling their dogs. The bill proposes fines ranging from $500,000 to $3 million or imprisonment from 6 months to 15 years. Still in the Senate, the members also sanctioned the Bank of Jamaica Amendment Act 2020. The bill is to modernize and strengthen the operations of the central bank to improve its governance structure. In piloting the bill, Senator Aubin Hill said the amendment was an important step in the clarification of the BOJ's mandate.
The amendment seeks to bring greater independence to the Bank of Jamaica in its operations and policy decisions-making process, while at the same time ensuring, importantly, transparency and accountability through adequate governance arrangements.
The bill gives the BOJ autonomy and independence in law in the implementation of monetary policy. In addition, the legislation seeks to ensure that the central bank has adequate capital at all times and institutes a robust and modern institutional framework. The bill was passed in the lower house recently. The Justice Ministry has announced plans to do a full rollout of alternative dispute resolution ADR method training for police officers. This move is to promote the use of ADR methods for conflict resolution outside of the courts. Justice Minister Delroy Chugg says while referrals of matters for restorative justice and mediation are made by police officers, the numbers can be improved.
We are now going to be rolling out many training so that every single senior police officer, and perhaps right down to every constable, understand the concept, know that you don't have to drag everyone into the court. You can deal with it by referring the matter to a restorative justice facilitator, to a child justice officer, another arbitration or other alternative dispute resolution.
Minister Chugg was speaking recently at the 4th Access to Justice Live virtual town hall. He said having police officers adequately trained in ADR would help to build the relationship between civilians and the police force. Justice Patrick Brooks was sworn in as the new president of the Court of Appeal yesterday following the retirement of Justice C. Dennis Morrison on Friday. Justice Brooks was presented with the instrument by Governor General Sir Patrick Allen in a ceremony held at King's House. Justice Brooks says he looks forward to the challenges ahead.
I will strive to build on the legacy of those presidents so that when it is my turn to retire, God willing, I will pass on to my successor a court that she will be proud to lead.
Justice Brooks, who was appointed to the appeal court in January 2012, was admitted to practice law in 1979 and worked as a prosecutor in various capacities, including Crown Counsel in the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. While thanking former President Justice Dennis Morrison for his contribution to the court, Sir Patrick said his successor was a great fit for the position.
With your appointment, Jamaica is well on its way to dealing with some of the new realities of our time. And so, sir, for your achievements, today we will also confer the Order of Jamaica on you in accordance with your elevation.
Retired President Justice Morrison, who was appointed to serve in the Court of Appeal of Jamaica in 2008, was appointed as president in January 2016. And finally, more than 200 students from Southwest St. Catherine are the latest batch to receive tablets and laptop computers to assist with their online learning. 100 tablets and 40 laptops are provided by Member of Parliament Everald Warmington through the Constituency Development Fund. The remainder were donated through support from 3 business entities in the area.
I know it's a very trying time with a lot of parents who are unable to provide these equipment for the students now to study virtually. So we're grateful to those who have assisted us, the companies, the good corporate citizens that are assisting us in this.
We are proud to be partnering with the MP to provide tablets for the most needy students in the area. We pray that you will use it for the benefit of your educational development.
And that's it for JIS News today. I'm Lorraine Mendez. Thank you for watching.
An important message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness. What to do if you think you have been exposed or are experiencing signs and symptoms of COVID-19. Immediately call 888-1-LOVE. That's 888-663-5683. In addition, you should stay at home. Don't go to work, school, or any public place. Do not use public transport, and avoid visitors to your home. You may need to do this for up to 14 days to reduce the spread of the infection. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
The government has implemented a number of measures to minimize the number of persons who may contract viral illnesses, particularly during the current flu season. Take a look.
Controlling the triple threat of COVID-19, influenza and dengue is a major agenda item for the Ministry of Health and Wellness. This mission requires every one of us to always be vigilant and take preventative measures against the spread of these infectious diseases.
Knowledge is power, and our awareness of this triple threat is the first step to victory. The next step is to do what we know needs to be done and can be done to protect ourselves and the people we care about. COVID is still out there, requiring continued vigilance in our national response to the disease, including the strict adherence to infection prevention and control measures. Masking up, we must add the masks, washing the hands, keeping your physical distancing from others, and sticking to quarantine or isolation as is required.
The Health Ministry has maintained a robust testing protocol in the COVID response to track and trace the virus and slow its spread. That includes government's approval for some private entities to carry out the gold standard polymerase chain reaction PCR test for COVID-19, as well as the antigen test, which has a quicker turnaround time for results.
Combined, private sector entities are now able, for a cost or for a fee, to offer the PCR test for COVID with the sanctioning of the Ministry of Health and Wellness. And so you can go to a microlabs, and they're all over the country. You can get swabbed, samples collected, sent into Carigen, and Carigen will do the tests, turn it around, and send back the results. In addition to that, the ministry has also approved Technology Solutions Limited to do environmental testing. And what this means is that this entity, Technology Solutions Limited, is able to go into your company or your home or wherever else in a public space, and they can test surfaces to determine if the virus exists on those surfaces.
Infection prevention measures for the flu caused by the influenza virus is the same as for COVID-19. They include covering the mouth and nose and coughing and sneezing in a piece of tissue, which is then properly disposed of immediately. Both COVID and the flu are highly infectious diseases requiring persons with symptoms to stay at home and avoid contact with others in order to prevent spread. Both have similar symptoms, which makes it difficult to tell which illness is present. Common symptoms of the two infections include coughing, runny or stuffy nose, and shortness of breath.
And so it's very important that as citizens, if you have any of these symptoms, you get checked out by a doctor. And it's also important that you do not panic, but at least get the diagnosis to determine which of the two or indeed the three you may have. Because depending on what you have, your treatment would vary.
The flu season begins in November of each year and extends to March. However, it can be longer, starting earlier in October and lasting until May. The government has made 23,000 doses of the flu vaccine available free of cost for the most vulnerable in the population. Persons can get the vaccine at public healthcare facilities across the island.
The priority for this vaccine would be healthcare workers initially, pregnant women, children over 6 months with chronic illnesses, non-health frontline workers such as the police officers, army, correctional services, customs, and immigration officers, and transport operators, institutionalized persons, those in the infirmaries, nursing homes, and the elderly, 65 years and older, and those with chronic illnesses. And indeed, I would say parliamentarians too, persons or public officials, elected officials who are on the ground in the communities, interfacing with a wide cross-section of the population. They would represent a risk. I would certainly want to encourage those, particularly of a particular age cohort, to seek out, and you can get it done privately, the vaccine, because it certainly will assist in protecting you against the flu.
Shorten the duration of any flu-like illness that you may get. The severity will certainly be lessened. The hospitalization will be decreased. What has been shown when we look at what occurred in the Southern Hemisphere for their winter season, it was shown that persons who received the flu vaccine actually, if they got COVID, their impact of the illness was much less, and they also had less deaths in persons who had received the vaccine.
Controlling the population of the Aedes aegypti mosquito, which transmits the dengue virus, is the most potent action to protect against dengue fever, the third tier in this triple virus threat. The mosquitoes are domesticated and usually live in and around areas where people are located. They breed in containers holding water.
We're talking about the vase that you keep on the whatnot, or the bucket that you might keep in the bathroom to store water because you don't have running water to flush the toilet, or the leaking pipe under the sink that you put a pan to catch because you didn't get a chance to fix the pipe. All of those things become breeding sites for mosquitoes and ultimately poses a risk to you.
The national response to this threat has brought the Aedes aegypti indices to a low level, following government's single largest investment of nearly $300 million in the island's vector management infrastructure.
We had in place over 1,244 vector control workers. 222 are permanent, so those are the ones on staff, but we engaged just over another 1,022. Those are still in place, and they have been out in the field doing the work, bringing the messaging, giving out the brochures. We've had 60 new vehicles that have been assigned to the vector control program. 36 of the 60 had vehicle-mounted foggers. We have 76 handheld fogging machines with another 35 in stock.
Citizens, meanwhile, are told to constantly monitor their environment for mosquito breeding sites and take action to prevent breeding.
Tightly cover our water drums, so secure our water storage tanks. The searching the drums and mosquito breeding sites, including our, all the things that I mentioned earlier. Once you see that little wiggly thing in the water, you know that mosquitoes breeding in it.
So, as we continue to take responsibility for our own health and the well-being of all around us, let's get informed and take action to stay safe.
Follow the protocols. What we do not want is to be overwhelmed as a public health response, where people don't have access to hospital beds, doctors, nurses, if they need it, because of a dengue, a flu outbreak, or indeed COVID. And I think we can do that.
Informing.
Jamaica today confirmed its first imported case of coronavirus.
Educating.
If you follow the recommended procedures, it is highly likely that you will not get the disease.
Going beyond to keep you informed and connected.
Welcome to Get the Fact.
Even through the pandemic. Helping you stay safe while we protect ourselves. Dependable. Impactful. Accurate.
This is your JIS News.
Credible. Trustworthy. Every day, everywhere. Serving our customers proudly.
We are still on health. Even though 2020 is coming to a close, there can still be a spike in serious illnesses. We now turn to one of the leading causes of death, non-communicable diseases. Next, how to manage diabetes in the season of sweet temptations.
Diabetes is a serious chronic lifestyle disease affecting millions of people over the world and continues to increase. Diabetes affects how your body turns food into energy. It is a disease in which your blood glucose or blood sugar levels are too high, and glucose comes from the food you eat. Insulin is a hormone that helps the glucose get into your cells to give energy. Sometimes your body doesn't make enough or any at all, doesn't make any insulin, and so it doesn't use the insulin well. Glucose then stays in your blood and doesn't reach your cells. Over time, having too much glucose in your blood can cause complications. Example, situations with the kidney, heart disease, and so on. Although diabetes has no cure, there are steps you can take to manage your diabetes and stay healthy.
It is through lifestyle that we manage the risk of diabetes. Those behaviors include increased physical activity, a healthy diet, routine health checks, and strict adherence to medication. The ministry will be championing the cause of persons living with diabetes. We have updated our clinical management guidelines, which is now available on our website, and we will be working on increasing access to testing through the introduction of point-of-care testing. This methodology of testing is the gold standard for monitoring and control of diabetes. Our agency, the National Health Fund, will continue to support persons through the provision of diabetic medication and supplies, and I encourage persons with diabetes to enroll in the NHF card program to access this benefit.
The person with diabetes should really have an opportunity to sit down with a trained clinician who is able to help them to understand the concepts of diabetes self-management, education, and support. There are 4 core areas the patient must begin to understand. How and when to take medication. That's the first one. If you take insulin, then you need to know how does your insulin work and how do you eat in relation to the insulin. Then there are the people who have type 2 diabetes, which commonly start off with education on activity and just healthy nutrition. And then we add 1 of 5 classes of oral agents. And then we teach them how to make food, how to eat food. Also, we think of things like target blood pressure. Is your weight healthy, or do you need to lose a little weight? And most importantly, how do you feel? What is your quality of life? All of this is what we focus on. Also, when you get your lab work done, what is your hemoglobin A1C? The target should be 7% or less. Keep that number in your mind. Diabetes damages the feet, the kidney, and the eyes at first, and then eventually we also find it can cause coronary vascular disease too. But for foot care, the person with diabetes every day, you wash your feet, wash them properly. Dry your feet, dry between the toes. Moisturize your feet, but do not put moisturizer between the toes. Make sure that you wear cotton socks, right? If you're going to have your toes cut by somebody trained who knows how to cut them. Examine your feet every day. Do not walk barefoot. Please, please, please do not walk barefooted, because if you injure or cause trauma to the feet, you may not feel it because your diabetes has damaged the nerves to the feet. And finally, when you buy shoes that are comfortable and that you can wear without causing blisters or trauma to the feet. Now we have research that shows that I can prevent the eye damage, the kidney damage, the foot damage, and the amputations by just keeping my blood glucoses under control and taking care of myself.
There's no such thing as a diabetic diet, but it's all about how much I eat, the timing of my meals. So it's your portion sizes is what is important. Now, what we do recommend is that persons eat at least 3 balanced meals per day and small snacks. Snacks usually mean smaller, more nourishing meals, which we usually recommend that it be your fruits, your vegetables, or you can also use your nuts. Each meal or snack should contain protein because we need it to be balanced as well. Each meal should contain at least your protein and your fat. And we also want them to select a variety of foods from all the food groups. So there is some recommendations about the amount of fruits that you should eat per day. We usually say 2 to 3 servings. We want you to include a variety of vegetables daily. We also want you to include more peas, beans, and nuts in your daily meals. Reduce your intake of salty and processed foods, and to reduce your intake of fats and oils, and that of sugary foods and drinks. You aim for foods that have high sources of fiber, such as your whole wheat bread, whole grain rice, flour, more of your ground provisions. They will give you fiber, right? And that will slow down the rate at which your body breaks down the food, so you won't have a rapid increase in your blood sugar levels versus if you eat foods that are low in these added fibers. When you're having alcohol as a person living with diabetes is not to have it on an empty stomach, because it gives the risk of lowering your blood sugar, And also what we want you to do is that once you have diabetes, we do not really recommend the mixed drink, so as to say, because they usually have a sweetened base. For women, it's usually you can have a drink per day, and for men is no more than 2 drinks. And what is a drink? Usually for beer, it's not more than 12 ounces. And for like a shot, is usually a shot, which is about 1.5 ounces. And for wine, recommendation is usually about 5 ounces thereabout.
There are several researches that have shown that physical activity, when done properly, for persons who are diabetic, again you heard it, allows you to use up glucose. For children, the recommendation is at least 60 minutes, 5 days a week of moderate to vigorous activity, and it must be a combination of muscle and bone strengthening activity. That's the recommendation for our children. For adults, it's at least 30 minutes, 5 days a week to get some health benefit, meaning increased circulation, reduce stress. And for the elderly, it's at least 30 minutes, 5 days a week. If you're a diabetic patient, these are some of the activities that are very good for you. Swimming, jogging, dancing, these activities, they're not very vigorous. You maintain them at a low to moderate pace, and it's a very effective way of managing and controlling your blood glucose or your blood sugar. If you are going to start a physical activity program, that you check with your doctor before you start, because if you have a condition, if you're diabetic, hypertensive, you have any other medical condition, your doctor will determine the intensity level, the type of activities that you can do.
Persons living with diabetes mellitus have multiple psychosocial issues related to diabetes management and its complications even before COVID. And there's an entity called diabetic distress, which refers to the negative emotions such as feeling hopeless, angry, or frustrated that persons who are diagnosed with diabetes experience, especially if they lack social support. I must mention we have the mental health helpline, which is 888-639-5433, or simply remember 888-NEW-LIFE, which is a 24-hour, 7 days per week psychological support produced by psychologists. When you call this number, they can provide emotional support for you. If you are feeling any form of emotional distress, they can provide support for you, and where you need additional help, they will direct you to additional help.
You've reached the final page of the magazine. Thanks so much for being with us on today's journey. And now the Jamaica Magazine unfolds tomorrow, so come back same time on this same station. Until then, click on our social media pages for more informative features. While there, please subscribe to our pages and click that notification bell so you can stay in the know. I'm Adrian Atkins, encouraging you to stay safe.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.